What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on Off-Field Antics, and it's another edition of that FPL show. Game week 4 we're coming into now, so I'm joined by Rod to take a look back on what happened in game week 3 and look forward to game week 4. Rod, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It was an interesting game week. A few picks came off, and we'll get into that very shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's get into it straight away, man. I guess we'll start with me, because I had an absolute dog shit week. Finished under the average of 42. And I think looking at my team, it's actually like fairly solid, I feel like, but the results just didn't go my way. And I saw something on Twitter and I laughed. It said, if you had a bad game week, you probably have a good team. And I look at my team and I don't think it's bad on paper. I still think there's a couple moves I want to make in the future. But yeah, just a really disappointing game week, and it was a hard one to pick up points, but you did a phenomenal job, Rod. You picked up 58 points in the end, which I think is actually like really solid considering all things.
Yeah, mate, I'm very happy with 58. Pereira on the bench is annoying, but we moved. But Rodrigo, outstanding pick on 13 points. Absolute haul against Chelsea, which was obviously expected on my behalf. But 58 points, mate, I'm happy. Martinelli, 3 games, 3 returns. Ben White, 3 games, 2 clean sheets and a bonus. And obviously Salah captaincy actually counted as a differential. So I went him over Jesus because I've just got against strikers, like I said before, and it worked.
Yeah, well, we were talking before the game week. I think we were saying there's probably like 3 options which are genuinely quite solid, but I think it really did come down to Salah and Jesus. We were also looking at Cancelo as maybe a pick, but we thought the Newcastle away trip would be hard, and it definitely turned out to be. But I went Jesus. I just thought against Brentford, guarantee gonna bag, just didn't end up happening. I think he got a little lucky in the end with the Salah goal. In terms of how the game was going, I was like, fucking hell, this is ideal. This is for Rod, because I know he's got Trent and Salah, just like me, but I knew you went with the captaincy option on him. So, I mean, fair play, did pick up the goal in the end. The Rodrigo shout, mate, it's just absolutely out of this world, just because I think bringing him in has been a fair pick, in all honesty, just because of the format he's been in. And I guess you could say the way Leeds are looking, I've been really impressed with him and the Jesse March. I know Ted Lasso got a lot of stick, I think, when he came in, because I think a lot of people still wanted Bielsa, but I think he's brought in his own players, and you're seeing some of the players who were there before even showing like new levels of their game. I think Jack Harrison's one who I'm really excited to look out for this season, because I think there's a lot less pressure on him, and Brendan Aronson I think could be a quality FPL pick in the future. But he went with Rodrigo against Chelsea, and I liked the pick because I did like Leeds, but I didn't expect him to bag a bloody header. And I mean, fair play, you had a really solid week in the end, Rod. I just wanted to pull up the actual team of the week just to show how kind of, I guess you could say, random it was. I mean, you look at the players on here. We've got Martinez in goal, Saliba, Perisic and Voutman, Odegaard, Harrison, Rodrigo, St. Maximin, Bernardo, and Che Adams and Brennan Johnson up front, a total of 134 points. I think it kind of shows how the game week went, and, you know, I think a lot of the big boys really didn't turn up, and I think it's going to be interesting to see whether they can in game week 4, because I think we was talking before the show and you said the fixtures are looking very tasty, especially for a lot of the premium assets.
Yes, mate. I've got 10 out of my 11 starters at home. Palace for City, Fulham for Arsenal, and Bournemouth for Liverpool. So it's an interesting one because there are lots of choices this week, but obviously I'll be sticking with Salah, because Salah, even when Liverpool look bad, he can return at any point, and didn't look great. United got 8 points, didn't look great against Fulham, got 12 points, so I'm happy. And yeah, I'm banking this week, so hopefully Salah returns.
Yeah, man. I think it's an interesting one with Salah and Liverpool in general, because I know a lot of people have gone with you've got 3 assets in Diaz, Salah and Trent. I know a lot of people have gone with Trent and Robbo. I guess we could maybe take a look at last week's scores, and we could maybe start with Monday Night Football. Manchester United taking on Liverpool. United getting a big 2-1 victory. Liverpool assets at the moment are a bit of a question mark, because I think you look at the form over the past few years and they've been absolute dynamite. But this season they've started really slow. Now actually below United in the table, which I'm really happy about. What's your kind of thoughts and takeaways? Because I don't know where they're heading, especially after that United game, because they look really poor.
It's a really difficult one because I think what's cost them, and they've been getting away with it for a couple of years because they have looked brilliant. Injuries and investment. Their midfield is where the game was won. United, just from start to finish, maybe by the last 20 minutes or so, looked very, very good. And they just carving space. Van Dijk was seen out of position multiple times. Trent was nowhere to be seen. He was back on his way to Merseyside. There was just so much space for Man United, and it didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It happened literally throughout the whole game. And obviously Milner, he tried very hard. He had a good game, but you can't expect him at his age to be doing what he has to be doing. And they just got no midfield essentially at the moment. So
Yeah,
it's a really weird one for Liverpool because they just look like they're struggling this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you saw a bit of a different performance from United, obviously, and I think you made a good point about the last 20 minutes. I think the United side genuinely looked shattered at times from the amount of effort they was putting in, and I think it was a change of pace certainly for United. But on Liverpool, I think you made a good point about the midfield. They got bodied by a midfield of Eriksen, McTominay, and Bruno, and you look at the past weeks, that midfield's been getting absolutely bodied by everyone. So it's a bit of an interesting one for sure. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold's actually at fault for the first goal. I know a lot of people going about Van Dijk, and I completely agree. But if you actually look at a replay, you see him, lazily kind of jogging back, and then he's out of position as the ball gets put in behind him. And then he starts walking towards Jadon Sancho. And then as soon as Sancho turns, he sprint jogs towards him. But if he would have run towards him in the first place, Sancho would have never got that shot off. And, I think it's definitely a disappointing one for them. I think, like you said, in terms of the assets, I mean, who have they got next week? It is Bournemouth, isn't it? It's an interesting one because you expect them to win that game. I think Bournemouth look really poor this weekend, and it's a hard one because I'm tempted to potentially take out Trent even, but I think it's hard to do it considering the games they've got to come, and you expect more from them over the course of the season, right?
I mean, I had Liverpool obviously up there to finish second. They still can. Obviously, City did drop points on the weekend, which wasn't expected. But Liverpool just look a shadow of the team they were last year. They look like they're struggling. Obviously, Matip's out injured, Konate's out injured, so Joe Gomez and Van Dijk, it didn't work. And United they came out all guns blazing, and they were brilliant. And I think that's 3 games now for Liverpool where they just have not been convincing in either of the games. And they've played opponents which, look at it, they probably should have won and should have beaten going off past years, but it's testament to the quality of the Premier League this year, and where it's up to another level, and teams you thought would be doing better aren't doing as well. And yeah, I think obviously Bournemouth next, you expect them to win, but Bournemouth have impressed me a little bit. But
okay,
yeah, I don't know, they've got to be doing better, mate, because that's what 3 games, three lots
2
of points.
Yeah. I guess we could move on to the Bournemouth Arsenal game because Liverpool do have Bournemouth next, and I think it's a great place to kind of kick off their season because obviously they're at home at Anfield. They're going to have the fans behind them, and they're going up against an absolutely shoddy team, in my opinion. I know you've been impressed by them at times. Against Arsenal, I thought they were really poor. That being said, I wasn't all too, I guess you could say, there at the time watching the game. We went out for it. I was a bit buzzed. But from what I saw, I really wasn't impressed. I think Arsenal, I think there's a lot being made of them at this moment in time, and that's fair enough. But I still don't think we've seen them have a proper test yet, and that's going to be the interesting part for them. But I think Bournemouth, I think I had them bottom in our predictions, and I think you did as well. I don't see them getting any higher than 20th, in all honesty. I think it'd be really hard for them to even make a push to potentially stay up. I think against Liverpool, they're probably going to have to lean on, the size that they have in their team and Kiefer Moore, because I think if you look at the weak points for Liverpool, it has been that defensive sort of, area where, you can get at Trent, and Van Dijk really isn't being the player that he has shown in the past. But for Arsenal, Rod, it was a huge win, to keep the momentum rolling. Mikel Arteta's boys, 3-0. I think Odegaard ended up bagging 2, and Saliba with an absolute screamer. Was it you who had Saliba in the team, or was it Fieldsy?
It was Jack Field, and like you just mentioned, Arsenal there, they've really impressed me, to be honest, mate. I didn't think they'd start the season as well as they have. I think they've been convincing in every performance, but you make a solid point about Bournemouth. They do look shoddy at times. For the best part, they do look shoddy. But there are little glimpses that you get. But Arsenal were probably unlucky not to win 4 or 5-0. And I feel like this is going to be a common occurrence for teams playing Bournemouth, where I expected Villa to win 4 or 5-0. We ended up losing fucking 2-0. But yeah, I think Arsenal, they've got Fulham next. That'll be a good test because, to be honest, Fulham have impressed me. They've looked good. But yeah, Arsenal for me, they've been really impressing, and I mean that's the main reason I've gone triple Arsenal to start the year off, where usually I wouldn't, because you look on paper, Martinelli value at 6 million. Well, was Jesus? He's going to be the
now, isn't he?
Yeah, Jesus was always going to be the number 9 for Arsenal. He's proven great value, and then obviously an easy way into the defence in Ben White, who's going to play. So yeah, I mean, Arsenal, as an Arsenal fan, I'd be really, really pleased.
Yeah, 100%. I just think it is more of a case of let's not get carried away yet. I think, they are sitting at top of the table at the moment, but, you've got to remember what your goals are. And I think in terms of where they are, they're way on course to finish where they want to inside that top 4. But, as the season rolls along, it is going to get tougher, and they're going to have some really hard matchups, and it's going to be interesting to see, how they can kind of deal with adversity and, continue to push forward, because like you said, they have started the season off extremely strong, especially when you compare it to last season. I think the fixtures last season, I guess you could say, were slightly harder with Chelsea and City in there. But nevertheless, they've done a great job at kicking off this season off. And, I do think their form is going to continue into the next couple of game weeks. I want to go to a different sort of game, one I really am interested in, Rob, because I couldn't really pay too much attention to it at the time. But Crystal Palace 3, Aston Villa 1. A bit of a weird one in terms of Villa. You went 1-0 down, but you kind of... Oh, was it 1-0 up and but won? But the game changed pretty soon after that. We have seen another Villa performance since then last night against Bolton. I think it's a rough time to be a Villa fan. In terms of the squad you've got, it's one of the best I think I've ever seen in terms of strength in numbers and, the depth you've got and the quality just in the team in general. But really not, bringing the performances to light just yet.
Yeah, and I said this when we made our predictions last week. I didn't expect us to win at Palace, and off what I've seen, we've been really, really poor. And to go 1-0 up was very surprising, but then to chuck it away, I wasn't surprised, because that's just what we do. Penalty for me is harsh. I don't really know where his arm's meant to go if you want to generate any leverage, but it's the Premier League now, where if it hits your arm and it's raised, it's always going to be given. And the last goal, I don't remember the last goal, and I'm not asked. Penalty? No, that was the second. I'm asked. Regardless, we were poor. Last night, we won 4-1, but we were poor for the first half. We managed to somehow get a goal through Douglas Luiz through the direct corner. Yeah. But no, we were poor, and I was so excited for the season. We've got some absolute unreal players on paper, and I still feel like Gerrard doesn't know his best team. The midfield, McGinn has been genuinely horrific in these past 4 games. He's been genuinely awful, and he's captain, so he's not going to be dropped. It's just frustrating because the squad on paper is absolutely ridiculous. Yet, yeah, we should be doing better. And obviously, I get the increased quality in the Premier League, but I want games to be more fiercely battled. I don't want us to just roll over like we have done. And we even against Bolton yesterday for 60 or so, no, 50 minutes, we looked idealless, and they're a League One side. So, mate,
You put out a really strong squad against them, in all
There,
honesty. You
what,
had Watkins and Ings at front.
bar Konza and Matty Cash, it was probably the full 11. So I want to give Gerrard time. He's the manager, and I feel like we'll be back 4 steps behind if we get rid of him because these are his players, etc. But I'm running out of patience, mate. And yesterday, had we lost, I think I'd be more fuming today. But I think yesterday papered over the cracks. We've got West Ham this weekend, who, to be honest, have looked abysmal. They're the only team not to have generated a clear shot on target or something ridiculous, I read. So, yeah, but if you play Villa, you like to get some in. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bowen chips in with 2 goals.
Yeah, you are at home. I just had to check that one. But yeah, I think there's a couple of things which are really interesting in terms of Villa, because in terms of FPL, they've actually got some really good assets on paper. It's just the fact the team's not playing. And if this team could pick up some form, there are some assets I'd be really interested in. I think Cash is definitely one of them at right back. I think Bailey, if he was starting week in, week out, I think when he come on for Villa, he's like your most exciting player, bar none. It's just tough one at the moment. I think Gerrard's going to be the main culprit of the blame, I guess you could say, at this moment in time. I think when we played you in pre-season, you just had that sort of like no rhythm and no sort of idea of what to do when you've got the ball, which is a bit of a weird one for me because, I feel like Villa have been pretty good attacking in the past couple of seasons. I think you look at the likes of Watkins, he's had a lot of chances. Yes, he hasn't been the most clinical, but he scored quite a few goals for you. And I mean, it's not getting really easier. I think West Ham are a team who has still got a lot of quality, kind of like yourselves, and they're just kind of waiting to, I don't know, fire the trigger, I guess you could say, in terms of on their form, because I think when they come into form, they're probably going to be quite a solid team. And I think the same could be said for you, but it's looking pretty bleak at this moment in time.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because I was so excited for the season, and mate, I don't even know our best team. It'd probably have to be a 4-3-3, but we haven't really got any wingers bar Bailey, and Bailey's more of a system player, and he can't play the 4-3-3 that we want to play. So to get him in, you'd probably have to do a 4-2-3-1. But then, like, Kamara in there, it does offer more balance. But then, for me, you can't play Ramsey and McGinn alongside him because they're both attacking midfielders. So he's often left by himself. But I'm not the manager, and I'm happy because I don't want to make these decisions. But like, on paper, we've got 15 good players who could rotate places. But I just want us to look good. And for large parts of last year, we didn't look particularly great with him. And people are blaming, saying, it's Beale doing everything. Now he's at QPR. This is why we're shit. Yeah. And they're wrong because we were poor for a large part of last year, even when Beale was there. So it's nothing to do with him. Maybe it's affected it a bit, but nothing drastic because towards the end of last year, the final 8 to 10 games, we weren't great. And he was there. So I just genuinely don't know what it is. I just think we just don't look like we have a game plan. And yesterday, a lot of the time, it was just hit the ball long to Watkins in behind, which Watkins' runs is brilliant, but what he does with it is just poor. So, yeah, it's frustrating, mate, because I had us 8th. I don't think we'll finish anywhere near there. I think 13th, 14th, 5th best, which is not progression. And the investment we've had, the players we've got, it's embarrassing. I just wish we could bring Potter in.
Yeah, I mean, if you could do that, I think he would do wonders with this group of players. Because I think if you look what he's done with Brighton, I think they've got a lot of quality players, Brighton, but they don't have the same sort of quality you've got, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it is. I never really thought Gerrard was going to be the man. I think there was a lot being made of it that he's going to come to Villa, he's going to, boost the club for a few years, and then he's going to go straight to Liverpool. I don't see him being good enough for Villa, really, let alone Liverpool. So yeah, it's a tough one, and I think there's been a lot put into Gerrard, so I do see you backing him for quite a while before you even think about getting rid of him, and I think it could get a lot worse before it gets better. But it's tough for sure.
The case is, obviously, you've got to give managers time, and as fans, we are often quite fickle when things don't go our way. But that's why we're not owners of big football clubs, and that's why it's not our decision to decide. But like, it's
No,
frustrating because
the-
Moyes took over West Ham, and first year he was 17th, and then he's got European football. I'm hoping Gerrard can maybe illustrate something like that. But I didn't want him in the first place, but he's there, so I'll back him. But I'm running out of patience.
well, I'll let it be known that that's not the reason I'm not an owner of the football club. The reason I'm not an owner of a football club is because I don't have enough money. But if I did, Jared would be gone right now. We'd be splashing the cash, I'll tell you that right now. In terms of the other games, I really actually want to touch on two of Sunday games. I guess we could start with Leeds versus Chelsea, where a lot of points were made for you. And I think looking to the future for Leeds, they are an interesting team to keep an eye on just because of the way Jesse March has got them playing. He was at Brighton away next week, and I like them because they look a lot more solid defensively than they did under Bielsa. And going forward, they still have a bit about them. I think the best bit of business they've done is bringing in Brendan Aronson. The young American has just looked so lively for them. The amount of times he spun like Koulibaly and that, it was unreal. But Chelsea are by far the most overrated team in the Premier League this year. A lot of people sticking them in their top four. I just don't see it. I don't know how. Tuchel, people are saying he's one of the top managers in the league. I just don't see it. I know he's won a Champions League, but so did Di Matteo. I just find it tough for him, Rod. I think Leeds look brilliant, deserved the win, and Chelsea looked a million miles off the pace. I think in terms of, their strongest asset, which was going to be the defence, they got turned over and Koulibaly got a red card. It's embarrassing. And going forwards, I think for teams, all we have to do is really shut down Sterling. I think he's our main threat going forwards. I think you look at Kai Havertz, he's kind of the invisible man. Apparently he's playing for him, but I haven't seen him once this season. So it's a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, Leeds, to be honest, mate, they've impressed me. They look organised. They know what each member has to do. Harrison, fantastic. Aronson, fantastic. Yeah. Rodrigo filling in that spot for Bamford quite well.
That midfield as well, that midfield of Rocker and Adams, they've been going about their work quite quietly, but they've been so impressive for them.
Yeah, like I said, I've been really impressed by them, which is annoying, really, really annoying. But Chelsea looked horrific. They're about to spend, like 100 billion on Gordon or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen them linked with a couple of players, Aubameyang, Gordon, and Leao. The only one which would really frighten me out of those would be Leao, because I've been watching Serie A a bit more consistently over last year and this year. Not to the point where I'm watching like every week, but like when I can catch a game on BT Sport when there's no Prem on or anything like that, I do. And that guy's a scary guy. I think he'll do bits this year for Portugal at the World Cup as well. But if Tuchel gets his hands on him, I'm sure you'll butcher him like he does with every other attacker, because, you look at the likes of Werner, Lukaku. They've had these men. They've had fucking Tammy Abraham, and they just got rid of them like it's nothing. And now they don't have a number 9, and they're like, what are we meant to do, mate? It's absolutely ridiculous. They get everything they deserve, mate, for backing that guy Tuchel. Apparently, they're offering him a contract extension, Rod. It's absolutely nuts.
I just think they get Gordon for 60 million as an Everton. The Everton board should take that money and run, because from what he's got potential, of course he's got potential, as do most young English players. But he's nothing brilliant, and for 60 million, it's crazy. That's just like the going fee now for like an average player. It's ridiculous.
I don't rate him. I think there's so many players better for him. I'd rather go and get Bowen, man. I think I've been quite harsh on Bowen at times, and maybe that's because he's from our hometown. But in terms of like what he offers you, I think work rate much more. Maybe not as good as a dribbler, but in front of goal, he's miles better than Gordon. I just don't understand where all this hype's coming from. And if they want to pay that fee, I think, like you said, look at what Leeds have done with the fees they got from Rafinha and Phillips. They're able to bring in these players that, a lot of people aren't, like, I guess you could say that, that they're not that known, but they've been able to improve the squad tenfold. And I think Everton should probably be looking at doing the same.
Yeah, and I think they're looking to play Gordon maybe right wing back or something ridiculous, and it's just terrorist football. It's horrific.
Oh my god!
Yeah, Chelsea, they were abysmal against Leeds. Leeds turned them over and looked really good, and it was an interesting game to watch. And after those 13 points, I was very hyped. And usually when Leeds win, I'm quite the opposite.
Yeah, man. I think in terms of Chelsea, they've got some really good players in there, but I mean, I don't know why they're sticking with this five at the back. Playing Reece James as a centre back is absolutely criminal. I think you look at Trent over the past few years, and he's been electric going forward. But he hasn't got half the defensive side of the game that Reece James has. And for me, like if I was the England boss, I'd be starting him in the World Cup over Trent. But to be playing him as a centre back in this Chelsea lineup, why didn't they go to a four and play Cucurella or fucking Chilwell?
They can't play a four back. They only can. A five back. They look horrific in a four back. They can't. They're coached into this five back because it's terrorist football.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to blame Tuchel, mate. They should be going full back because they haven't got the creativity in the middle of the park. I think they've really missed Kovacic at this moment in time. I think Mount's one of these players who are getting by because they can do the legwork in the midfield. But in terms of creativity, he's not going to get the ball, fucking eye his man up and put it past him. Kovacic is a guy who's a bit more dynamic. He can take a man on, he can find the pass, and they're in trouble, man. They're in real trouble because they can spend the money all they want, but if they're getting Tuchel assets, they're going to be mudded. This isn't the Chelsea, like, I think of the great Chelsea sides I've seen, and you think of like the Jose Mourinho team at both spells, especially the second one when he brought in Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa. I really enjoy watching them, and this is just so far off it. Disgusting. Like if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be chanting for him to come out. He's literally only there because he won the Champions League, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he offers a bit of stability, but
he just plays all defensive players. I just find it nuts they spent the money on Cucurella when they already have Chilwell. It's just absolutely mind-boggling what's happening at that club. But we better move on to Newcastle vs City because this was a game of the weekend, in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've watched all three of the Newcastle games, and I think when we get off here, I might even watch them against Tranmere. But, man, Newcastle's such an impressive side. We were talking before the podcast that they're looking at bringing Isaac in, which is an interesting transfer as well because Callum Wilson's been doing so well for him, but he's not reliable in terms of injuries. They went 1-0 down in this game, and, the defending was pretty poor, I thought, for the first Gundogan goal. But the way they turned it around and the players in their squad, they've put something together there under Eddie Howe, which is really special. And I think, this will be the sort of moments that will be looked back on at Newcastle with great fondness. Because I think in, 4 to 5, 6 years' time, they're going to be in a position where they are one of the powerhouses in European football, like City. And everything they do isn't going to be looked upon with such fondness, I guess you could say.
I think, obviously, worth noting, they have also just signed João Pedro. They've signed Isaac. So that's two big signings. Well, they're about to sign Isaac, two big signings.
Yeah, to bolster going forward as well.
Exactly, mate. And they look like us at other teams, like Brighton. They just look really well organised, well drilled. Each player knows their role. Each player can fill in, help. They do look good, and it really pains me to say it. Obviously, I think when you play City, you can go 2 goals up, but City can always get it back. And Newcastle, the 2 goals, the 3 goals they did score, well-worked goals. It's her absolute banger from Trippier. What a free kick.
Hey, the 20-point man, he's got 20 points or something like that in the 3 game week so far. He's been super solid in FPL. But yeah.
Exactly. Obviously, Haaland chipping in with a goal, missing a couple good chances as well. Pope was brilliant, and it was just an illustration of why the Premier League's so good. Those 2 teams are the best defences in the league, and it finished 3-3. So
yeah,
fantastic game.
But
very.
They both hadn't conceded a goal, right, before that game kicked off.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. And City they just look crazy as well, and that game could go on for 120 minutes and it would be 5 or 6-6. It was a thrilling game and it was great. It was a neutral.
Yeah, I think in terms of Newcastle, though, like, I actually could say the players they already had there, and like St. Maximin, he was unplayable on that day. He was skinning Walker so many times, and I think in terms of the player that they brought in towards the end of last season, Guimaraes, man, he is a Man City midfielder. It's so nuts. He would fit into that team perfectly. He is. I rate him so highly, man. I'm a big fan. I'm so shocked that he fell under the radar so much and actually fell into the hands of Newcastle, because I think he's the best player in their squad. And going forward, this was, I guess you could say, the first real Al Kashiko. I think they're going to be big rivals in the future for sure, because I think with all the money that they're going to be spending and the infrastructure that they're going to have at their clubs, it's only going to put them in a position to be dominant for the next 20, 30 years. Do you know what I mean? And I thought it was an exciting game, and I can't really wait to see what it's going to even look like in like the next 5, 10 years, because their quality is only ever going to grow. And I think the Premier League is in a super strong spot right now when it comes to, dominating the world's game in terms of bringing the most eyes to it. And I think with I guess you could say the bolster that these two clubs are going to keep bringing to it, it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger. In terms of next week's games, Rod, I wanted to ask you quickly about a transfer. I'm looking to do, some sort of transfer of my squad right now. I can move out Saka, and that leaves me with 9.1 million in the bank. I'm tempted to take out Haaland and potentially take a hit and bring in KDB. What are you thinking in my position? Obviously, my squad isn't. I don't really want to take a hit, and I don't really want a wild card.
Not this game week. The fixtures are too good for these teams, and Haaland out for a hit, especially this week, I don't think is worth it. Just looking at your team now,
It's because I want to get Saka out, but if I take Saka out,
Fulham home this week though, so he can do something against them. Just looking at it, I don't even know what I would do. I'd probably look to get rid of Bailey, to be honest with you, mate, because I got rid of him last week for Rodrigo. He's not a guaranteed player, and I feel like you can. What have you got? A mil in the
1.2.
So that would taking Bailey out, put you on 6.1. I think that's Jack Harris. That's around Jack Harrison's price.
See, for me, this is what I'm thinking now. Maybe I don't make a move this week. Do I save my transfer, get rid of Saka and Haaland, bring in KDB? I don't know what that leaves me with up front, but it would be a tasty fee, I'm guessing, something around...
Do you think Haaland outscores KDB in the next 10 games?
No, I don't. This is the thing with Haaland. I've been watching... I saw something on Twitter. There's a thread about Pep Guardiola and Erling Haaland, and apparently he wants to rest Haaland quite a lot. He's looking at bringing in Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
And the guy was saying that he thinks that there's probably going to be out the next 7 Premier League game weeks. Haaland maybe comes off the bench in 2 of them or something like that.
But even then, he can score. He can get a goal or 2. He's got 3 goals and an assist in 3 games. Mate, give him 20 minutes. All he needs is 1 chance and it's a goal.
I don't know, man. I think KDB is the best player in the Premier. To be honest, right, this is what I'm looking at as well.
Bruno.
I think Bruno. That's another thing, right? I absolutely love the shithousery. And I love the Liverpool fans crying for him to get a second yellow card for what? Taking the ball back to the centre spot. Is that a fucking kickoff? And I loved it. But yeah,
that's essential.
Bring in the 5 mil Casemiro pick for this week. But nah, in terms of Bruno, I don't actually think he had a really good game at all. I don't know where he's going to really play in this United squad. It's going to be interesting for sure. But I'm thinking about taking out Salah, man. I don't rate Liverpool. Get rid of Salah.
I think with Casemiro, you're going to be able to play just the 1 defensive midfielder and the 2 number 8s. So whether that Eriksen and Bruno or whatever. I just think Casemiro just gives you that defensive protection and big signing. But in regards to your transfers, I'd probably bank, to be honest, mate. Looking at your team, or if I was to move, I'd get Bailey out, maybe for an Aronson, maybe for a Harrison.
Yeah, it would be Aronson if I went the Leeds route. It's just I do think Brighton away is a tough game.
Oh, it's a very tough game, but it's more for the future because obviously you might not you want those options that you can rotate and that you know are going to play. And in Bailey, I think you're just wasting the money there. I think he was a good option at the start of the year, but even against Palace.
The thing is now, his price isn't going to go down really because everyone's already transferred him out. So he's already 4.9, which means he's dropped a point, right? No one's really going to transfer him out now because everyone's already got rid of him. I don't know what his ownership is. What is it? 9.8%. So it's still pretty low in terms of that. I think in terms of the Leeds, Aronson's a good pickup because he kind of drifts a lot central and he does create a lot. Rodrigo, though, do you think Rodrigo is still the man? Because
no, I'll tell you why. I think he's currently on pens, and I've got him at 6 million. Now he's 6.2. He's probably going to be 6.3. He's had 1 million people transfer him in the last few days. I think when Bamford's back, I don't know if Bamford will take pens off him. And like I said to you, I'm a big believer in momentum. Rodrigo has got momentum, but I think there are better assets around for the 6.2, 6.3 million.
When are you looking to wildcard, lastly, before we move on to the fixtures for the upcoming game week?
I haven't even thought about it. I was looking, I don't really know. And when I wildcard, I think about at least 4 transfers. But I look at it now and there's not really anyone I want. But probably after game week 7.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying towards game week 8. So I don't know what the fixtures are for that, but it'll be interesting. Let's move on to the fixtures and give our predictions, Rod. United are on TV again. I think they've been on every game's been on so far. But they kick it off away at Southampton. What are you thinking, Rod? A bit of back to the future? Kind of go backwards and back to poor performance against Southampton, because I think this is actually a really tough game, and I think it's tougher than the Liverpool game. I think United are going to have to put in the same sort of effort that they did. I don't think there'll be as much coming at them, but I think in terms of what Southampton are going to look to do, it's going to be a difficult game. I think with set pieces as well, with Southampton could be dangerous. They did pick up a win last week, which you didn't believe in, but I believed in that one. What are you thinking? Because I'm thinking probably a 2-1 United win at best, but I don't know.
Yeah, I see 2-1. I think you'll beat them. I think you'll be all over them. I don't rate Southampton this year. I genuinely don't. I think Hasenhüttl has lost the dressing room. He's trying to get something out of them. I don't think they're fully buying into it anymore. He's been there a good few years. I think you'll beat them, but obviously away is always difficult, especially with fans back. But yeah, I think you beat them 2-1, and they'll score like a late goal that gets you off your seat a little bit, but I don't really see him do much. And it's the early kickoff, so it's a long trip down for Man United Friday night, I imagine.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it as well, and it was typical of me to take out Rashford last week, wasn't it? But fuck it. Yeah, in terms of United, I think it's going to be interesting to see if Casemiro starts his first game for the club. I think Martinez was super impressive against Liverpool. He's got that shithousery about him, like when he's walking into Salah and shit. I love that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I keep saying the word interesting, so I better stop that. I want to know what the lineup's going to be, because I think that's going to be important. I'd like to see Martial start, and I love his value in terms of FPL. I do know United have I guess you could say quite a tricky run in terms of the fixtures and where they're at coming up. But I love his value in FPL as a striker. I think he's 7 million or 7.5. I think it's 7 million for Martial. And I think he offers United a lot, especially when he's on the ball and in the attacking third. So I'd look forward to that one. Brentford against Everton. I'm going to go for Brentford win here. I've really disappointed in Everton this season. In terms of Brentford, I think they've got that threat up front with Mbeumo and Tony. I didn't manage to catch the game last week, so I'm not sure if Damsgaard came on, but he's a player I'm really looking forward to seeing really sort of gel into that Brentford team, because he had such an exciting Euros, and then I think he's got arthritis or something, which has really set him back. But if he can overcome that in the Premier League, he's such an exciting talent to potentially see. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Brentford. 3-0.
I'm with you. I think Brentford win. I think I'm going to go 2-1. Damsgaard wasn't on the bench last week. I think the injury's still keeping him back. But yeah, Brentford, they do look good. And like I said about previous teams, they also just look organised. Each player knows what to do. They all buy into Frank's management, which is obviously key. And Tony looks like a threat up top. He's proven to be good value also. So yeah, Everton haven't impressed me one bit. So yeah, 2-1 Brentford.
Yeah, I think he's one of the better managers in the league. I'm a big fan of Thomas Frank. I think what he's done with Brentford has been really impressive, and I think they're here to stay for a long time. They kind of remind me of when Burnley came up and they just stayed up, but they just play a lot better football, in my opinion. Brighton against Leeds. This is tough, man. I like both teams a lot, and I prefer Graham Potter as a manager, and I think he probably is the better manager tactically. But I think with the form that Leeds are in, it's going to be a tough one. I'm gonna go 2-2.
I'm gonna go. Leeds have a torrid record at Brighton. Brighton always seem to get the better of them, and I think they probably will this year again at the Amex. I'm going to go. No, actually, I'm going to go 1-1.
1-0.
I think it's going to be like a. Yeah, 1-1.
I think it'd be quite an open game. I think the way Leeds like to go on the attack, and I think Brentford have always been quite a fluid team to watch, so I think it will be a good one. Chelsea against Leicester. I'm going to go with a Leicester win. I think Leicester have been absolute dog shit, but I think they beat Chelsea. I hate Chelsea at the moment. I don't actually hate them like Liverpool, but I just hate the fact that everyone's going, well, Tuchel's one of the Tuchel's one of the best managers in the league. It absolutely irritates me, and the way they play football is depressing as fuck. So I'm gonna root for a Leicester win here. I'm gonna go 2-1 Leicester.
Okay. And I do think Chelsea win at home advantage. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea. I think Leicester have been pretty abysmal this year. Maybe likely to lose for Fofana. Try and see if they can keep hold on to him. I think they rejected a 60 million bid or something ridiculous.
It's crazy.
So what? 60 million Gordon, 60 million for Fofana, 60 million fucking Kukurea. Fair play. Yeah, 2-0 Chelsea.
Yeah. Liverpool Bournemouth. Wow, this is quite a shock that Bournemouth. Well, Liverpool and City are both on 3:00. Liverpool Bournemouth. I think this has got to be the game in which Liverpool kick off their season. It's a 3:00, which I think suits them. I don't know, 4-0 Liverpool, but I could see Bournemouth scoring. You know, I think Kiefer Moore on a set piece or a cross maybe could go on to Trent and absolutely bully him. I'm Kiefer Moore's biggest fan, so I'm going to go 4-1.
If he asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd probably go, or 3 weeks ago, I'd probably go Liverpool 4-0. But here, I really don't know.
Yeah, Kiefer Moore, man of the match.
Just the way things have been going for Bournemouth, and Liverpool have to win at some point. I'm going to go 3-0 Liverpool, and I will be captaining Salah, which I imagine the large majority of the other people also will be.
I don't know, I'm kind of tempted now to get rid of Haaland for Kiefer Moore, triple captain. The big man.
If anything, City are playing, I think, Barcelona in a charity match tonight. Haaland has been benched. Alvarez, Mahrez, and Foden's the front three.
I don't understand this charity match in the middle of the season. Newcastle about to kick off, so I'm looking forward to watching that. But a charity match in the middle of the season for both teams, why? Why risk injuries? And they're already at match fitness because they're playing in the league. It just doesn't make sense to me. We'll move on to that City game against Crystal Palace. Palace definitely been one of those teams who have gone to the Etihad and gotten a win before. I think Vieira sets them up quite well against City as well. I think Palace get a goal here for sure. I'm going to go 3-2 Man City.
See, Palace are City's bogey team. They always seem to put up a really good fight against them, and there's been years where Palace have won. They tend to be draws.
The thing is, that defense against Newcastle, I mean, it was against Newcastle, and Newcastle are a team I actually rate, but it wasn't the best from City. I think if you can get Zaha up against Walker, Walker looked a bit off the pace, in my opinion. He looks like you can get at him, and then if you're past him, defensively, I think Diaz hasn't been half as good as he was before. So yeah, I think you can get him.
Walker is captain in City side tonight.
Have you got the City lineup? Is Haaland starting?
No, he's on the bench.
All right.
Alvarez is starting. I'm going to go 2-2. I think it's going to be a cracker.
I like that pick because 3-2 City just doesn't sound right, but 2-2, even a 2-1 Crystal Palace. Oh man, I'm talking myself crazy here. I'll stick with the 3-2 City. Right, Arsenal versus Fulham. Man, the thing is, Fulham at home, I would actually back them to get a win here. The fact that it's at the Emirates, I think it's going to be harder. But super impressed with what Fulham have done. I think Andreas Pereira has been super exciting for them in terms of what he can do over the dead ball. He's able to find Mitrovic with quite ease. They scored a set-piece corner, I think it was, with Paulinho scoring his first goal last week. I think this is a game where it gets a little bit tougher for Arsenal. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal, but a game in which they don't just run over the opposition.
Yeah, I'm with you here as well. 2-1 Arsenal. I think Arsenal's televised again. They love a TV game as of late. 5:30 again. London derby.
Yeah.
Fulham have impressed me, like I've mentioned, but I think Arsenal do come out stronger here. So yeah, 2-1.
I think the midfield battle is going to be really important because I think Paulinho is a really good midfielder, and I think he'd actually walk into that Arsenal team right now. But that is my bias, I guess you could say, because I'm not the biggest fan of Xhaka and Partey for obvious reasons. We'll move to the Sunday games. Rod kicks off with you. 2:00 kickoff. Villa versus West Ham. I think this is a real crucial game for both teams. I think a win is needed for both teams. Probably West Ham need it a little bit more. But I'm actually going to go with a West Ham win here. I just think the quality that they have in their squad, it's only a matter of time. And, Moyes, what he did with them last season was phenomenal. So I don't see them taking this massive back step this season. I think their fixtures have been quite tough. And I'm going to go with a West Ham 2-1 win. Skamaka header.
I'm going to go West Ham 3-1 win. I'm not looking forward to this game. I've been looking forward to Villa all season.
What? 3-1?
We are at home. Will that help us? Probably not. It's hard to be positive when we just look really bad. But West Ham have been bad. But Bowen tends to love playing at Villa Park. So I'm going to go 3-1 West Ham.
His old man's a Villa fan, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, wow, I'm kind of shocked that you're not getting behind the boys, Rod. That's a bit of a weird one.
No, right, mate.
Okay, Wolves versus Newcastle. Exciting game, in my opinion. I think Wolves... I think it is. I think for 2:00. I know Wolves haven't been, I guess you could say, the most exciting team in the past, but I think with what they're trying to do now, they're going to have pace up front with Guedes. I mean, Mateus Nunes. I wasn't able to really watch too much of the Spurs game, but I think they'll try and take it to Newcastle, and Newcastle will give it back. So I'm going to go 3-1 Newcastle. I've just been so impressed by them. I know you'll think I'm tripping for it being quite an exciting game, but I just don't see it being boring with Newcastle involved because I've been quite excited every time I've watched them.
Wolves, similar to Chelsea, play horrific football.
They play better football.
I think you're struggling. I think Newcastle will beat them. Newcastle have just impressed me, and I didn't think Eddie Howe would be able to do it. I didn't rate the appointment, especially as someone looking to push him up the table, but he has really impressed me. 2-1 Newcastle.
Yeah, okay. Exciting game then.
No, absolutely not.
Right, finish the week off with Forest against Spurs. I think this is a tough one for Spurs because it's at the City ground, and I think what Forest showed against West Ham was, their fighting spirit there. I'm going to go with a Spurs late winner, Harry Kane, 2-1.
I like this game on paper. I think this is a fantastic game at the county ground, City ground. I really like it. I think Forest are going to put up a fight. They made some incredible signings on paper. It's all about gelling the squad, getting them integrated. I think Spurs are going to struggle, like West Ham struggled when they came to Forest. Like some other teams have struggled. Off the top of my head, I can't remember these other teams. But we saw
these other teams in the Championship. How they struggle.
We saw Spurs struggle against Wolves. I think Forest are going to be up there competing against Spurs strongly in this game. So I'm going to go 1-1.
I think keep an eye on the midfield in this game because I think Bentancur and Højbjerg up against like Lewis O'Brien or Al Mangala. I think it's going to be, I can't say interesting again. I've said interesting about a billion times this pod, but certainly going to be one to look out for. But thanks for joining us again, Rod. I hope I beat you this week in fantasy because I need it. I'm falling down the leaderboards. It's been rough out here, but hopefully this week I'll be back. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment down below, letting us know who you're captain in this upcoming game week. It's definitely a bit of a weird one. Some really nice fixtures for a lot of the big boys. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Me and Rod will be back again next week. Probably do that FPL show and, that FPL show twice potentially because there's midweekers next week, isn't there? If I'm correct in the fixtures. Yes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So hopefully we'll be here on a Monday and a Friday. Maybe do a transfer episode in there as well. Jam-packed next week.
Yeah, we are. We're back. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's going to be...
Is it?
Pardon?
Double, is it?
I don't think it's a double, no. But we'll be back.
Break my heart twice in a week. I cannot wait.
But yeah, we'll be back on Monday. We'll see you there. Thank you for watching and peace out.